How much do you spend on subscriptions? 10 years ago, that probably wasn't a hard question because all you had to keep track of was Netflix and maybe Spotify Premium. But today, it seems like everything is moving towards a subscription model. And I mean everything. We have subscriptions for entertainment, food, hygiene, pets, video creation. Heck, even BMW is trying to hop on the trend by making heated seats a monthly subscription. But why are so many industries trending towards a subscription model? And why has the general public been so receptive to it? By the end of this video, you'll know the answer to both those questions, and in the process, I'll show you how you might be spending way more money than you think. So let's investigate the true cost of subscription services. To truly understand why subscriptions have had an almost meteoric rise in the past decade, we need to understand the concept of something called lifetime value, or LTV for short. Essentially, LTV is a metric that defines how valuable you are in the eyes of a business. To show you what I mean, let's rewind to an Adobe back in 2010 that just released their 5th creative software bundle. Because their software was a single purchase at the time, the lifetime value of someone who buys it is one bundle. As a result, in order to make a profit after covering all the costs of shipping, manufacturing, and advertising this bundle, they'd have to charge a pretty high price. What's more, it's very unlikely that someone who buys this bundle will buy another one of their products anytime soon. This means they'd need to raise the final price even more to account for any future costs the business might encounter in the meantime. Ultimately, this resulted in a final cost of $2,599, and this example shows a sort of inverse relation between LTV and the price of a product. The fewer purchases of a product someone has to make, the lower the LTV, which results in a higher price per purchase. This is where subscription services shake things up because they allow LTV to be extended almost indefinitely as long as the consumer continues paying the monthly fee. This means businesses have a lot more flexibility and can charge lower prices per purchase. What that results in are more people than before being able to buy the product because a small monthly payment is much more absorbable of a cost than an instant multi-thousand-dollar commitment. And on top of all that, it also gives businesses a consistent stream of revenue, which makes investors really happy. So what we end up with is this perfect storm for businesses where if they turn their product into a subscription service, they get more customers paying more over time, more consistently. And that's why subscription services have only grown over the past decade. But to really show you how much money they bring in, let's look at some data. Using Adobe again for our example, this is their quarterly revenue by region. Can you guess where they changed their business model? If you said somewhere in this region, you'd be close because this is where they initially released the Adobe Creative Cloud, which turned what used to be a one-time payment of $2,000 for a software license into a $55 monthly subscription today. And after observing this kind of growth, many other companies followed suit. So much so that now the average American is spending about $219 per month on subscriptions, with more than half of people underestimating what they spend by $100. And to show you just how much more people are paying, I created this graph. What this graph does is it estimates the total lifetime cost of any monthly subscription service. Here's the general idea behind how it works. The monthly purchases of a subscription service can be represented as an area on a graph. For example, say that you have a subscription of $10 a month. On the graph, the first month would look like this rectangle with a height of 10 and a length of 1. Now, because the US has some sort of inflation, the next month's payment will be valued slightly less. In fact, I went through the data and found that on a monthly basis, a dollar loses 0.29% of its value on average. What that means is that on the graph, the next rectangle will have a height of 9.971 instead of 10. Now I know that doesn't seem like too much of a difference, but trust me, it adds up because we repeat this process over and over until the areas seem to converge at some value extremely close to 0. Then, to find the total cost, all we'd have to do is add up all the areas of all the rectangles. And to do that, we can use a tool in math called the integral. An integral allows us to calculate the area under any given curve. But what exactly is that curve, you may be asking? Well, because we have a situation where we start with an initial value and that value decreases at a rate proportional to what it is currently, we can represent the total cost of a subscription as the area under this exponential decay curve. However, one thing I want to note is that this curve actually gives us an underestimate of the true cost. We can see why by comparing our curve to the actual scenario we laid out. If we overlay them, we see that the actual situation we're trying to model has a bit more total area. There's a mathematical reason for this, and I'd like to see if you can piece it together in the comments. But even though this may give us an underestimate, it still conveys a powerful message because if we use it to find the total cost of that $10 subscription, we see that it comes out to be a whopping $3,443. That's 32% more than the $2,599 Adobe package we talked about earlier. But there's more though. Remember that statistic saying that Americans were spending about $219 per month on average? Well, what that translates to is a roughly $75,407 lifetime cost that the average American is paying.
And while we're at it, let's keep going because 219 is only the average. Going back to that chart, we can see that a fairly decent portion of the population is spending between $219 and $400+ a month. So what I want to do is estimate an average of that range and compare the prices for all three so we can get a decent idea of how much most of these big spenders are paying. And to find this average cost per month, I'm going to find smaller averages within the different pay levels and then take a weighted average of those values based off their total percents. Now, I know that was a mouthful, but stay with me because our final numbers get pretty crazy. One thing to note though, because the data doesn't give a breakdown of how many people spend on a specific dollar amount, we'll have to make some assumptions. To estimate our smaller averages, I'm going to assume that each dollar amount has an equal percentage of people paying it within that payment level. Also, for simplicity, let's make another assumption that this payment level matches our other two and goes from $400 to $499. Now with that out of the way, let's get on to calculating. Here are the averages for the different payment levels, and this is the final cost per month that it works out to, which means we can finally move on to comparing the prices. We already know that $219 per month equals around $75,000. Compared to the average we just found though, it seems a lot more affordable because our average comes out to be $108,979. But even that seems inexpensive when compared to the top of our range because if you're paying $499 per month over your lifetime, you'll have a bill of $171,819.
And this is the true cost of subscription services that more people should be aware of, because many Americans could be absorbing these kinds of costs without even realizing it. But there is a silver lining in all of this, and it lies in the realization that in a subscription model, the consumer can choose to cancel their subscriptions whenever they want. This means there's a potential to save a lot of money by only paying for a service periodically. Let's use Netflix for instance. Their standard plan currently costs $15.49 a month, which has a total lifetime cost of around $5,332. Now, if you want to be strategic with your spending, what you can do is wait until Netflix has a group of shows that you want to watch and binge them all within a certain amount of time. For example, let's say you have 6 shows you want to watch over the next 3 months. Your total cost would be about $45 if you cancel on the 3rd month. And let's say you find 6 shows you really want to watch each year and repeat the process. Instead of absorbing an almost $5.5 thousand cost, you'd only be paying somewhere around $1,333, which is close to 75% less than before. So, even though subscription services have almost certainly led to consumers paying more on average for products than they did before, if you're aware of the math behind how they work, you can use that knowledge to your advantage and avoid their true cost. If you enjoyed this video, please tap the like button and thank you for watching.